Welcome back to Weigh In with Alysha Collett, our special guest panellist this morning, and she's talking about injuries and comebacks. And Alysha, I suppose the most obvious question is, with your injuries, do you sort of think you may have missed a really good opportunity in Singapore?
Yeah, just at the point of when the accident did happen, the month beforehand, I just started picking up a lot of decent rides, just through with people being suspended, the opportunities started to get better and better. So you don't want to say it, but you were always, like when these do happen, obviously these accidents do happen, but for me it was a critical time when it did happen.
Did they get time for that?
Yeah, they both got 5 meetings, which is basically about a month in Singapore terms. They waited 2 weeks after for the conference call, and then we all went in there, and that's when the decision was made.
Is it tricky to watch, or have you seen it enough times now that you're cool about it?
Seen it enough times.
Yeah.
When it first happened, it all happened quite quickly, and I sort of can't quite remember what happened because it happens that quick. All I knew is that it was a painful one anyway, but but no, it's not too painful to watch. I mean, I'm used to it now. You just hope it doesn't happen again. That's the only one thing you don't want.
We've had a lot of jockeys injured, unfortunately, here in the last couple of months.
Yes.
And when you do get injured, is there enough, this is a different situation because you're in a different country, is there enough support, like we spoke to Bernard Saundra about this, do people ring you enough from NZTR or the Jockeys Association and say, are you all right and what do you need next, and how do you go about getting some compensation to help you through?
So luckily for me, I had ACC in New Zealand, so I didn't really want to rely on the Jockeys Trust Fund here as the incident happened over in Singapore, even though they would help me out if I needed to. But for someone in my advanced situation where the whole, life's changing sort of situation, they need to apply for the trust fund. But I do think they are quite good with it. She said that they've been in contact with her, and in saying that, my first week back in New Zealand, NZTR sent me a get well package, and they, if I need anything, to let them know. So they are quite good with it, to be fair.
So in saying that you didn't want to, dip into that fund, is that because you didn't think you were injured enough? Or?
No, I thought, I just thought that I was well looked after, no matter what. From everything in Singapore was covered, and then get back to New Zealand, I already had my cover. Right. I can go back to work hopefully in the next 3 or 4 months, and I didn't think it was something that I should be dipping into the fund of someone else that really needs it.
Yep.
But there are situations where people have mortgages and things like that where they need the coverage and the ACC isn't covering it, and that's the people that will need to ask for the funds. And I think the trust fund isn't just jockeys, I think it's anyone in New Zealand racing. You can get strappers, trainers, everything like that. They all can dip into the funds if they need it.
So with Singapore, obviously it's vastly different from what you're doing here because you were travelling up and down the country and going to the South Island a lot. I take it that the lack of travel is a good thing. So what's the pluses and negatives of riding where you are in Singapore compared with riding here, where you had a very successful couple of seasons?
It was a completely different lifestyle in general. Like you said, I was travelling every day, going up and down the country. I go to Singapore, I'm going to one track, I'm riding track work every morning, which in New Zealand I never did. I'm having to ride light, so just a change of my diet, change of temperature, having to sweat all the time. Also only riding twice a week. You got to maintain your fitness and things like that. That was just something that I wasn't quite used to just because I've been in New Zealand riding every day.
So you ride fit?
You ride fit, yes. So that was something that was new to me, and especially going over there and riding on the poly. That was a plus side. Like, I loved riding on that poly. You get the momentum up and you get the right leg around the corner, you'll be flying.
Did it take a while to get used to that?
Yes, it took a couple of months, and I asked a few people how to ride, and everyone sort of gave me different opinions, so I had to work it out for myself.
Do you face different requirements as a jockey, because a lot of the Asian-based owners have so much prestige involved in winning, whereas, for example, if you go to Hokitika and win a race, I'm picking you don't go out for dinner with the winning connections afterwards, whereas heaps of the guys and girls who have ridden up in Asia tell me that there's quite a lot of requirements around the owners and your respect you show to them.
It is. It was a lot more hands-on. Like, I did so many lunches and dinners and talking to owners, and you're actually getting to meet the people that you're riding for. In New Zealand, you don't really know who's behind the scenes sometimes, and that's a bit different. But definitely over there, you go to the races, you've got the whole bunch of owners there that are all there just to see this one horse race, and there's about 50 of them.
And just winning a maiden's a big event for them over there.
It is, and they're probably the most happiest people you ever see as the agent. They just love it. They get amongst you, they start yelling.
How does
and
yeah, sorry, Karen.
I think being a female as well.
I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah, they like putting me on being a female.
What's the culture like, with female jockeys and females at the top of the game? Is it even Stevens, or are you sort of the odd one out a wee bit?
When I first got there, it was very hesitant the first couple of months, but there was a lot of Kiwis there which gave me a lot of support, which I'm very grateful for. And it took me a couple of months to really just give the local trainers a confidence that I can steer a horse around and I can push and hit one. So after that, once they started using me, they just didn't see the reason to not use me. And then after that, you're basically treated the same as the males. There wasn't too much of a difference. Big thing with the owners over there, to start with, they sort of thought, oh, why would I want to put a female on? Yeah. And then after a couple of months, they said, we want to put the light female on.
Your riding light's a big advantage, isn't it? How light were you riding?
49 kgs.
Wow.
I rode the minimum over there.
As light as you've ever ridden since apprentice days?
Yes, race day. I did put the weight up about 3 months in. I put it up to 50 just because I didn't need to get down to that weight anymore, because I was starting to get the opportunities at the higher end of the handicapping.
Good, yeah.
And just quickly before we move on a bit, aspirations, what about Australia? When are you going there?
I did part of my apprenticeship in Sydney with Chris Waller over there. Going forward, I would like to go over to Sydney, yes, or just anywhere in Australia.
That's the end game sort of thing for you? That's the ultimate? Or?
Basically, yeah.
Just on a couple of jockeys who have been injured, Danielle Johnson, LSE's today, she has an operation on Tuesday on a little wing. Shafiq Rusov hoping to be back either Wednesday or Friday, so he'll be back this week, which is good. And as we all know, Maya has moved home back with Bob and Jenny, and she's starting her rehabilitation there, and she's able to walk around with the help of a Zimmer frame at this stage. So some positives there for Maya. So some good stories coming out of some bad situations with some of our jocks.
And even though he's Australian, our thoughts are with Ty England, who's in fairly serious shape after a fall in Hong Kong.